It was a scorching summer afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona. The sun blazed overhead, baking the city in relentless heat. Asphalt shimmered, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with warmth, making every breath feel heavy and dry. The city buzzed with life. Kids played in the spray of garden hoses, commuters drove home, and neighbors chatted on porches, seeking shade wherever they could find it. The hum of air conditioners and the distant sound of laughter filled the air, a typical summer day in the desert Southwest. But then, a strange sight appeared on the horizon, something that made people pause and squint into the distance. A massive dark wall loomed, not a rain cloud, but a towering wave of dust and sand stretching skyward. It looked almost otherworldly, as if a giant curtain was being drawn across the landscape. The Haboob raced forward, swallowing the landscape, turning day into a murky, frightening brown. The sun vanished behind the wall, and the familiar cityscape began to blur and fade. Winds whipped up, scattering debris and sending birds fleeing for shelter. Palm fronds bent and loose objects tumbled down empty streets, as if the city itself was bracing for impact. Silence fell as people stared, realizing they had only moments to get inside. The urgency was palpable. Doors slammed, windows were shut tight, and pets were hurried indoors. The dust storm rolled over mountains and into the city, casting a sharp line between blue sky and swirling brown chaos. It was as if two worlds collided, the calm before and the chaos after. Streetlights flickered on in the sudden darkness, and the world outside vanished behind a thick curtain of dust. Familiar landmarks disappeared, swallowed by the storm's relentless advance. The Haboob hit like a switch, daylight gone, replaced by an eerie orange gloom. The sky glowed with an unnatural light, casting long shadows and making the city feel like a scene from another planet. Windows rattled, doors shook, and the roar of wind and sand drowned out all other sounds. The storm battered buildings, making even the sturdiest homes feel fragile against nature's fury. Visibility dropped to near zero. Cars pulled over, unable to see the road. Headlights barely pierced the swirling dust, and traffic came to a halt as drivers waited for the storm to pass. The city, vibrant moments before, was brought to a standstill, trapped in a swirling cloud of earth. Streets emptied, and a heavy silence settled over Phoenix, broken only by the howling wind. In just minutes, Phoenix was engulfed by one of nature's most dramatic events. The skyline faded, and the city's pulse seemed to stop as the storm took over. The Haboob's arrival was sudden and overwhelming, a reminder of the desert's raw power. It was a force that could not be ignored, humbling even the largest city in its path. People huddled indoors, waiting for the storm to pass. Families gathered by windows, watching the swirling dust, hoping their homes would hold strong. Outside, the city disappeared beneath a relentless tide of dust. The world was reduced to shadows and shapes, all color and clarity erased by the storm. The Haboob had arrived, and nothing would be the same until it moved on. When it finally passed, it would leave behind a city transformed, blanketed in dust, but resilient as ever. This was the true force of a desert storm, a breathtaking, humbling display of nature's might, and a reminder of the power that shapes life in the desert. A haboob is a massive, fast-moving wall of dust and sand, common in deserts like the American Southwest and the Sahara. These colossal dust storms are a sight to behold, often stretching for miles and towering thousands of feet into the sky. The word haboob comes from Arabic, meaning blasting wind. This term perfectly captures the intense and powerful nature of these storms. Unlike small dust devils, haboobs are miles wide and thousands of feet high, often blocking out the sun and turning day into night. The sheer scale of a haboob can be both mesmerizing and terrifying. They can move as fast as 60 miles per hour, surprising anyone in their path. The speed and unpredictability of a haboob make it a formidable natural event. Haboobs are triggered by powerful downdrafts from collapsing thunderstorms, which slam into the desert floor and launch dust skyward. This process creates a rolling wall of dust that can travel great distances. Inside a haboob, the air is thick, gritty, and hard to breathe. The dust particles can irritate the eyes and respiratory system. Visibility drops to zero, making travel dangerous. Drivers can find themselves in perilous situations as the dust envelops everything in its path. The fine dust seeps into homes, damages buildings, and disrupts power lines. The aftermath of a haboob can leave communities dealing with significant cleanup and repairs. A haboob is not just a dust storm, it's a force of nature that demands respect. Its power and scale are a reminder of the raw force of the natural world. When one approaches, the world changes in minutes. The transformation is swift and dramatic, altering the landscape in an instant. Only preparation and caution can keep you safe. Being aware of the signs and taking immediate action can help mitigate the risks associated with these powerful storms. Every haboob begins with a distant thunderstorm. In Arizona's summer, hot air rises, forming powerful storm clouds. Rain often evaporates before hitting the ground, cooling the air and sending it crashing down as a downdraft. This downdraft slams into the desert, spreading out in all directions as a gusty outflow. As it races across the dry ground, it sweeps up loose dust and sand, building a towering wall. The front edge churns and tumbles, lifting dust thousands of feet into the sky. The result, a rolling, opaque curtain of earth, moving fast and growing taller with every mile. Sometimes the parent thunderstorm is hidden far behind the dust. A haboob can seem to appear out of nowhere, a sudden child of distant storms. It's a dramatic reminder of how weather systems are connected. The desert's calm can turn to chaos in moments. On that fateful afternoon, Bernae Boykin Hitesman was driving her 2 children home, just like any other day. The sun was shining, and the kids were chatting in the back seat, their laughter filling the car with warmth and comfort. Suddenly, she spotted a dark, menacing wall in her rearview mirror, creeping closer with every passing second. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, a massive, swirling cloud of dust swallowing the horizon. Realizing it was a haboob, a dangerous dust storm, Bernae knew she had to act fast. She pulled over to the side of the road, turned off the car and its lights, and did her best to reassure her kids, telling them everything would be okay. The dust storm hit with a deafening roar, shaking the car violently and pelting it with sand and debris. The sound was overwhelming, like a freight train passing inches away. In an instant, daylight vanished, replaced by a suffocating orange-brown twilight. The world outside the windows became unrecognizable, swallowed by the storm's fury. Inside, Bernae held her children close, wrapping her arms around them and whispering words of comfort. She tried to keep them calm as the world outside disappeared into chaos. The car shook with every gust, dust began to seep in through the smallest cracks, and visibility dropped to nothing. It felt as if they were completely cut off from the world. For what felt like an eternity, they waited, isolated and powerless, listening to the relentless fury of the storm battering their car. Time seemed to slow down as they huddled together, hoping for the worst to pass. Bernae distracted her children with songs and gentle stories, trying to keep their minds off the fear. But the fear was real, and it lingered in the air with every howl of the wind. All they could do was wait for the haboob to pass, trusting that their shelter would hold and that they would be safe inside. The experience was terrifying, but Bernae's quick thinking and calm presence kept her family safe through the ordeal. When the storm finally subsided, relief washed over them. In a haboob, preparation and calm can make all the difference. Knowing what to do and staying composed can save lives in moments of crisis. The storm outside raged on, but inside, Bernae and her children found courage, resilience, and the strength to face the unknown together. Inside a haboob, the world transforms instantly. Darkness falls, tinted orange and red, making everything look alien. The roar of wind and sand is deafening, rattling windows and shaking cars. Dust seeps in, coating skin and filling the air with a gritty taste. Breathing becomes difficult, especially for those with asthma. Visibility drops to zero. You can't see the road, the sky, or even a few feet ahead. The sense of isolation is overwhelming. Trapped in a swirling void, cut off from the world. The most important rule is to stop driving and wait. For Bernae and her children, those minutes felt endless. The storm's power was absolute, but their safety depended on staying put. When the dust finally cleared, relief washed over them. The haboob had passed, leaving behind silence and a changed world. Surviving a haboob is about patience and preparation. The haboob plunged Phoenix into chaos. Powerful winds knocked out power, leaving thousands without electricity or air conditioning in the sweltering heat. Traffic lights failed, creating confusion on the roads. Dust clogged air conditioners, damaged power stations, and even threatened water supplies. Cleanup was massive. City workers and families swept, vacuumed, and repaired for days. Pools turned to muddy ponds, and a fine layer of dust coated every surface. The storm was a reminder that even a modern city is vulnerable to nature's power. Phoenix faced a huge challenge, but the community responded. The Haboob's impact would be felt long after the dust settled. Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport ground to a halt as the Haboob hit. Visibility dropped to zero, flights were grounded, and incoming planes diverted to other cities. Passengers waited in crowded terminals, uncertain when they'd reach their destinations. The storm damaged airport buildings and scattered debris across runways. Jet engines had to be inspected for dust, delaying flights even longer. Maintenance crews worked through the night to restore order. The Haboob's reach extended far beyond Phoenix, disrupting travel across the country. Even the most advanced technology was no match for the storm's force. For thousands, it was a night of waiting and frustration. Nature had the final say. When a Haboob approaches, get indoors fast, don't wait. Close all windows and doors and bring pets inside. If you're driving, pull off the road, turn off your engine and lights, and wait for the storm to pass. Never keep your lights on, other drivers might follow and crash. Prepare an emergency kit with water, food, flashlights, and a radio. Secure loose outdoor items to prevent damage. After the storm, watch for debris and downed power lines. Stay inside if you have breathing problems. Dust lingers long after the wind dies down. Preparation and quick action save lives during a Haboob. Respect the storm, and you'll stay safe. As the dust settled, Phoenix emerged changed but united. Neighbors checked on each other, cleared debris, and helped direct traffic. City workers restored power and cleaned streets, while families tackled the dust at home. The storm brought people together, turning chaos into cooperation. Many updated emergency kits and safety plans, learning from the experience. The Haboob became a story of resilience, of parents protecting children, of neighbors lending a hand. The storm's mess faded, but the spirit of community endured. Phoenix learned to respect nature and prepare for the unexpected. The memory of the giant dust wall became a lesson in courage and readiness. In the end, the Haboob was more than a storm. It was a test the city passed together. The light of human cooperation shone through the darkness. Even when nature turns day into night, community brings hope. Phoenix would be ready for whatever came next.